Kedar THE Iyer, welcome to IQ Talk. How you doing today?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure. Especially after your FIFA losses, I needed to get you back on. What happened there, Kedar?
From what I remember, I won 4 straight times 2 times ago, and then you had a lucky streak of 1 or 2 games last time, and you won on
Are
penalties
you
twice.
serious? I won 3 times in a row, and I shut you out.
2 were on penalties, and then I won 4 times before that, the time before that. So,
whatever.
we'll call it even on it.
Yeah. I mean, I let you win those.
Okay, we'll just do another
Who
match.
won the Chelsea versus Chelsea match?
Technically, you won.
That was a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Truly an even match to show who's the best. And did that end in penalty kicks?
Yeah, that one ended in penalties too.
Okay, that's kind of dumb. I'll admit the penalty kicks not a good way to end games, but they were tough. They were like they really tested us as athletes of mind and skill. I don't know what I'm saying, but anyways, Kedar is the director of software at Everipedia. He has been with us since September 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah, and before that, he was literally traveling the world. He was a digital nomad. Is that fair to say?
It was for a bit, and then I spent a good deal of time just shacked up in New York for about a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the Big Apple.
Yeah.
Doing Ethereum things.
Yeah, that's where I got into cryptos.
Okay, cool. So let's start. Tell us, like, where are you from? You're from the Bay Area, right?
Yeah.
Were you always into programming and stuff, or was that later on?
I guess I wrote my first program when I was about 11, but I wasn't too deep into it and everything. I wrote a script here, I wrote
A script here, script there. It sounds so modest.
No,
yes,
but
a little script here. Yeah.
Really, though, in like high school, I wasn't that into coding. College,
Okay.
too, I wasn't too into coding. I didn't start really coding seriously until
Okay.
after college.
Okay, in college you were a mechanical engineer, right?
That's right.
Okay, and that's where you first met Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we met because we were both part of the Sigma Eta Phi entrepreneurship fraternity at UCLA.
Okay, a bonding experience.
Yeah.
What was Sam like back in the day?
Sam I remember the first like month he got into powerlifting. He went from like a skinny little dude to like this giant jacked buff in the span of like 3 or 4 months.
And then he got fat, and then he got buff again.
Exactly.
Kind of going almost full circle. In the next iteration of Sam, he'll be skinny again.
Yeah.
That would be completely full circle.
And he'll be running like marathons or something like that.
Yeah. So what was the entrepreneurship frat like? Didn't you make the news for some Chinese restaurant?
That's how I got into the frat, yeah.
Okay, so what happened there?
I ran a food delivery business at UCLA.
What was it called?
It's called UCLA Munchies, actually.
Okay, cool.
Our target market was stoners up past midnight. Like, after midnight is when the food options kind of shut down at UCLA, so the stoners that didn't want to leave the apartment or leave the dorms to go get food we had a website set up, so we used, like, one of those, like, what you see is what you get kind of website builders. It was Weebly was the one we used. Weebly. And
So you definitely weren't coding then.
Nope. I think maybe there was like 3 lines of HTML that was custom in there.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, we used that. We had an email address that all of our orders came to, and we had 4 of us delivering orders. So we would run around delivering orders, and at some point we caught the attention of a Chinese restaurant in Brentwood.
Okay.
The Palace. I think I'm still banned from that restaurant.
You're banned?
Yeah.
You didn't like the competition?
Well, I'll finish the story.
Okay.
You'll see pretty soon. It was a Korean lady who ran a Chinese restaurant. It was kind of weird. She asked us to do food delivery on behalf for her. So she didn't even want us to. She said she had delivery drivers. She just wanted somebody to do like some sort of marketing campaign around it and build a website where they could take in orders. So we signed a contract with her. We built her a website. She probably could have found somebody else to make a way better website than we did. It was like a really generic, like kind of baddish website. But we had a brilliant marketing scheme, and that was that we called the site Ching Chong Ling Long Takeout. And the reason Ching Chong Ling Long Gourmet Takeout. And the reason we called
Sounds
it
like a Dave Chappelle skit.
Yeah, it was because do you remember that Asians in the Library video that came out?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like it was a girl at UCLA.
Okay.
So she just come out with that later, and like one of the lines in that is like Ching Chong Ling Long, right?
Yeah.
So we made it like a parody off of that, and we posted it all over the internet. We got a ton of hype off of it. We got LA Weekly covered it first. Then it
Whoa.
spread to... like.
She should be thanking you.
I mean, that's what I thought too. We got her great press. We got her a bunch of orders she wouldn't have gotten otherwise. The quality, from what I heard, it took like an hour and a half for the food to arrive, and the food food was good. It just took a long time to arrive.
An hour and a half is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then you got all this press. She was getting all this business. Why was she mad?
She got upset because the Ching Chong Ling Long thing turned into... So first it went viral. It went all the way... It went fully nationwide. We even got like The Guardian and stuff to cover it at one point. So the UK... Guys in the UK were covering it.
You guys should have had an Everipedia page. If Everipedia existed back then.
We should make an...
Yeah, we should make it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be on that after this interview.
Sweet.
And I'll post it under the video. The history of Ching Chong Ling Long.
Yeah, actually it's on Know Your Meme has a section on it, I think, on our...
Oh, really?
Website, yeah.
Oh, it's probably in the Ching Chong Ling Long Know Your Meme page.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you're there. Oh, cool. So, were you forced to shut down, I'm assuming? You were?
It was crazier than that. It wasn't just like we got forced to shut down. We, the residents of Monterey Park in LA, which is like in East LA,
Mm-hmm.
they heard about the site. It went pretty viral, and they got really upset, and they all got together and they signed a petition and sent it to their city councilman. And the city councilman, I don't remember what his name was, something. I think it was a Vietnamese guy. I don't remember exactly.
Okay.
A Chinese guy.
Is Monterey Park predominantly an Asian community?
It is predominantly Chinese, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I think old Chinese, like people who've been in the...
They didn't like a Korean woman delivering Chinese food?
They didn't like the concept. They thought she was a disgrace to their community.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they signed a petition.
Is she from Monterey Park?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I think she had a Korean accent, so I'm assuming she's from
Korea. I mean, no, does she live in Monterey Park at the time?
No, she lives in the West Side somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah. They sent a petition to their councilman, who then took that petition and forwarded it to the dean of UCLA, the chancellor of UCLA.
The dean of UCLA.
The chancellor of UCLA, Gene Block. He got a notice from the city councilman saying, "Hey, we'd like these two kids that are running Ching Chong Ling Long Takeout to be expelled from UCLA."
What?
Yeah, and our chancellor thankfully he was a cool guy, and he was like, "Absolutely not. We're not, we're not expelling two students over some."
We're being entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
Creative meme smiths.
So we came to a compromise, and that was that we shut the business down.
Oh.
The Korean lady, she was upset. The owner of the Palace Buffet, I believe it was called Palace Buffet.
Yeah.
Something like that. The owner of that restaurant, she was really upset anyways. She didn't want to continue any. She basically cut all communication with us and told us, don't come by the restaurant.
Oh, okay.
And we decided to shut things down. We were supposed to do an event to promote diversity at UCLA, and we argued that we were doing nothing to not promote diversity, so that event never happened in the end.
A Korean, an Indian. What ethnicity were your friends that started it?
He was Taiwanese.
Taiwanese.
And the other two were both like Indians from India. They were both from Delhi.
This is the American dream right here. All coming together to sell Chinese food and become a meme, reach worldwide recognition, only to be shut down by the residents of Monterey Park.
Yeah. A week later, the hype was all gone. The news cycle went up, it went down, everybody forgot about it.
That's a crazy ride.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. It was probably the wildest time in college for sure.
Yeah, so what did you learn? Was that your first entrepreneurship experience, or did you have others before that?
No, that was my first major one. I'd never ever had press about anything before.
Okay, so was it learning about how to deal with press? Was it learning about how to kind of position yourself in the press a certain way, or what did you learn doing it?
I learned a lot about how the news cycle operates.
Yeah.
They hone in on one event. They don't care about facts for the most part. They don't care about. They just want an angle. They want to hit it. So LA Weekly's angle was, this is funny. A bunch of people hopped on saying, hey, this is racist. Then a bunch of people hopped on saying, no, it's not racist. We need to be. And then it turned into a conversation about race in America. And it was
which obviously sells papers and gets impressions.
Exactly, it does all that, but it didn't help our, it was this has nothing to do with this. We're just running a Chinese takeout business here. This is
we're just trying to make some money.
Right. We think we just started as a joke, and it went completely out of our control.
You hit it out of the ballpark with the meme. That's what really got all the attention. Ching Chong Ling Long.
Yeah, I guess that's another lesson is we learned the power of viral marketing.
Yeah.
The internet-based marketing, what works on the internet isn't traditional branding and all that sort of stuff. It's creating viral content.
It's memes, and you can't predict what memes are going to be popular. That's the thing. The people just kind of pick it, and then it's just this whole collective consciousness thing, and then it just goes, and you can't control it. It's out of anyone's control. And then the press kind of just does their thing to get their impressions and make money off of it and whatever. And you actually were doing a service, and it's kind of sad to think that they were trying to paint it as, oh, this is about race, but it was like, no, we're just college kids trying to make money and be creative in the process.
Right.
Yeah.
It started as one thing and ended up as another. But we did learn a lot about delivering orders on time, customer management, all those sorts of things. So we learned a lot from the business aspect of it. We ran the business for about 2 months, 3 months before we even got any press or anything like that. Before we did the Chinese takeout, we were running it in the dorms for 2 to 3 months.
In the dorms?
We learned a lot.
Did you sleep much?
No, we would. We mostly just cut class to do this.
Okay.
We would all cut our morning classes. We would do the deliveries from 12 a.m. to 4 a.m.
Was this before Postmates?
Yeah, this was before Postmates, before Uber Eats.
Okay.
Actually, what's sad is that the Chinese takeout thing was initially supposed to be us. We were going to expand that into a bigger delivery service.
Was it going to be an app?
The idea was to build a website at first.
Okay.
You weren't thinking app back then. We should have been thinking about apps, I guess. But we were thinking, website, or just like offered as a service to an online delivery service to restaurants in Westwood was the idea. But once we got, once we get that press, everything just kind of disappeared, and that never went anywhere in the end.
So, at what point in your college career was this happening? Your junior year, your senior year?
This was my sophomore year.
Oh, your sophomore? Okay, so that was early on.
2010.
Okay, and so then you had another 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay, and so then 2 years of college go by, you graduate, and then you basically just hit the road, right?
I didn't hit the road immediately. I had to make money initially. I had a job for about a year here. It was working for a startup.
Yeah, and that's where you learned how to code, right?
That's where I learned how to code. I was the only employee at the startup, and me and one of the co-founders coded the website together.
Mm. And you caught a lucky break, because something about a motorcycle, right? You met him through motorcycles, or you're bonding through motorcycles or something.
Right. I don't remember how I met this guy. I think we crossed through some friend that was some mutual friend of ours was just sending out a mass email saying, hey, so they need an intern to come on board to write code. And I responded saying, hey, I don't really know much about code. I've done a little bit of JavaScript once.
Yeah. I used to write scripts when I was 11.
Exactly.
No
write
big deal.
scripts when I was 11. That's about it. I haven't touched it in about 10 years. And I was like, but I'm down to learn on the job. If this guy's down, he's like, whatever, just meet with these guys, see what you think.
Yeah.
And we ended up, I met with a guy, and we ended up talking about motorcycles for 30 or 45 minutes because I was riding motorcycles at the time. He did too. And he just decided he liked me, and he's like, all right, here, I'll give you a job for 2 weeks.
See, it's amazing. You just make a connection like that, and then boom, you have your job that probably set you on a track for where you are now.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
It was a good break, and I've been coding ever since then.
Yeah. So how'd you end up in India for 7 months? Did that happen after?
For 4 months.
Oh, 4 months.
4 months, 3 or 4 months. That happened when I left. When this startup folded. So we went through the UCLA accelerator with this startup.
Okay.
The startup didn't gain any traction, and we folded about a year after.
So it was in the 9 out of 10 that failed.
Yeah.
Oh well.
We failed. We got an investment round. We got one investment round, about $50K from Start Engine in LA.
Okay.
Howard Marks, the one he runs. Didn't go anywhere.
Okay.
So when that startup folded, I had a bunch of time on my hands, and I was like, all right, that's when I went to the World Cup in Brazil. So I went to the World Cup in Brazil.
I could have met you there.
Yeah, we were both there at the same time. Right?
Speaking of which, I'm leaving for Brazil in less than 48 hours.
What's the plan for you when you get there?
I studied abroad there in 2014, so I have a lot of homies and friends that are still there. I've been hitting them up all day, and this is the first time it's actually sunk in, like, wow, I'm leaving to go to Brazil, and it's summer there right now. And I can't wait to get away from this cold and rainy weather in LA. But I actually checked the weather in Florianopolis, which is the city I'm staying in. It's supposed to be raining the entire time. I'm like, oh well. I'll make the most of it. I think it can't be raining the entire time, but that's what the weather said.
Okay.
But yeah, I was originally there in 2014 during the World Cup. There wasn't any World Cup games in Florianopolis, but there was a lot of activity and a lot of hype since it was the World Cup. It was crazy. Just when games played, the entire city would shut off. And then when Brazil would score a goal, you would just hear the city erupt on the streets. It was like a movie, honestly. And then I went to Rio for the final. That was like one of the first times I traveled alone. Just like literally wandered around that city for few days. Checked out all the sites that I studied in history class. And then I came back to Florianopolis, and I came back to America a changed man. I kind of had an existential crisis when I came back, because Brazilians are so welcoming and friendly, and people weren't as welcoming and friendly in the U.S. I'm just like, fuck this. Like, I don't want to work so hard. They're enjoying life and not working hard. And it's funny because the next summer I ended up working in D.C., so go figure. But anyways, enough about me. This is your interview, Kedar.
Well, no, I'm saying I had...
Oh, yeah, you went to Brazil.
Yeah. I've had basically the same experience as you, though.
Yeah.
It was like,
What was Brazil like? Where'd you stay in Brazil?
I was hopping between cities. So I was following the American team around. I wasn't staying in one place. So I was in Manaus. I went through Colombia. I started in Colombia. I went to Manaus.
Brazil's a huge country.
Massive.
It's massive. Like, once you get into Brazil, like in the north, it's another 5 hours until you get to Sao Paulo.
Yeah, and every region is very, very distinct. Like the Amazon is very distinct from the north, which is poor and violent, versus the south, which is very developed and fairly well structured.
Yeah.
So it's like a conglomeration of different countries with completely different values, all kind of smashed.
It's kind of like America.
A little bit.
Yeah, but by Portuguese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool. They all speak the same language. Even in the Amazon, I was in random villages in the Amazon that had very little contact with the outside world, and they all spoke Portuguese.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of like a random town in the middle of nowhere in America. Maybe like, I don't know, Idaho or Montana or the deep south, but everybody speaks English. I'm sure they have their own dialects though, right?
Yeah, it was a little. They had I wouldn't even say it was really a dialect. It was just a little bit of slang that was local to the region, but I couldn't understand it. So.
Yeah. Okay. And so then you went to Brazil.
Yeah.
World Cup. Sick.
From there, I went to India.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I went to India, I'd run out of money by that point. So I worked at
Great planning there, Kedar.
Brazil was expensive during the World Cup,
At that time, the exchange rate was 2-1. Now I believe its worst, it was 4-1 when Brazil was in its worst crisis. But now, with the new president, there's more confidence in their economic system. So it's now like getting closer to 3-1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and things were jacked up for the World Cup.
Yeah.
Prices.
Yeah, definitely. And then so you went to India, and you ran out of money, and so then you're just like, all right, I'm just gonna live here for a few months.
Right. I have grandparents there, so I mooshed off my grandparents, lived at their house for a couple months, and I was working at. You hear about all those like outsourced code shops in India.
Yeah.
Where they pay people like, I was making $3 an hour.
What?
I was writing code in India for $3 an hour. It was one of the dumbest things. Not dumb. It was just like I was looking at myself like, what am I doing? I'm doing like a fairly high school job here.
You did the opposite of what people do. People go to America to get jobs.
Right.
To get high-paying jobs. You went to India to get a low-paying job. It's opposite year for Kedar right there.
Yeah. I get now. I totally get the appeal of if you live in India, why you would want to come. Why would you want to leave the country? Because you do the exact same job. It's not quite as... It's not the exact same job. Maybe you maybe do a little bit more, I'd say, high-skill work here in America than you do there. It's a little bit more of the rote kind of programming that happens there, but still it's the same skill of programming, and you get paid, 30 times as much to do it here?
Yeah.
So, as I was doing that, I was running, so I was doing that during the daytime, and then in the evening times, I was coding up a separate website where we were trying to launch a dating site in India. So India, even now, is mostly an arranged marriage country.
Yeah.
But there's, a couple cities that are a little bit more progressive, and there was no traction on no dating sites had really taken off then in India. But we actually had like one or two competitors, and Tinder had just come out.
Okay.
So that was one, but nobody liked the idea of Tinder in India. So we're like, what if we tailor a dating site
for an Indian culture?
Exactly.
Okay.
So we tried that. We did it for about 2 or 3 months.
What was the name of it? It
was called Let's Try.
Let's Chai.
Let's Try.
Indians like chai?
Indians love chai.
They love chai. Smart. It's like coffee meets bagel, but for India.
Yeah.
Catchy name.
Yeah, actually, I think we copied the UI of Coffee Meets Bagel for the most part. We copied a significant chunk of it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why them and not Tinder?
The whole swiping left-right thing felt too much like hooking up, and that's pretty taboo in India.
Oh, okay.
So we were looking for something that provided a little bit more of like, an experience where it felt like you were getting to know a person. So we had lots of restrictions on. So for guys, like once you said you wanted to talk to a girl had the option of saying yes or no, and then you had to have a chat of a specified length, and the girl would never reveal her contact info the whole time. And then after the chat ended, there was like, an ending time. They would ask the girl, hey, are you comfortable talking to this guy? So there was a lot of restrictions put in place compared to like, it's not like an American dating site where you just went and you talk to the girl immediately or talk to the guy.
Do you know any relationships you started? Did you hook anybody up together?
There was one. I think there was only one that I know of for sure. That they met up, they went on a date. I think 3 or 4 people we know, because we were following up with each of the girls actually. We weren't, there was so few girls on the site, we individually like followed up.
You could individually follow up with them. So one of them actually did end up working out. Did they get married, or or they ended up dating?
They did end up dating. I don't know what happened with it.
And that's a pretty big step in India, right?
It's a huge thing, and like we were super proud of that. Even that like one relationship.
You started one relationship. Congratulations!
Yeah.
You're a man of magic, Kedar.
One relationship. So it's just
you went from Lilong Chingchong. Wait, is that the name? Chingchong Lilong in Westwood to Let's Chai in India.
Yeah.
Wow, doing big things.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was
if
fun.
only The Guardian could cover that.
Yeah, that one.
But
I think if we'd stuck with it a couple more months, we would have gotten a little bit more press off of it because it was a very novel concept.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would be interested in the idea of having like a Western style dating site in India, I think.
Yeah. And who were you working with in India?
There was a club. I think he was so I was working with a friend of mine from the Bay Area who had grown up in Bangalore.
Okay.
And he had a friend who owned a pub in Bangalore, one of the biggest pubs in Bangalore.
Mm-hmm.
So we were doing a lot of marketing at that pub.
Okay.
So we started really small, and we never really.
Does India have a big drinking culture like the U.S.? Like, do people get fucked up or not really?
Nah, drinking. No? It's very new. It was a very new concept there.
Oh, okay.
Dating was a new concept. Like drinking to go out bars and stuff wasn't as new a concept, but it was still.
It's interesting because the English colonized India for hundreds of years, and I guess none of those. I guess it's so traditional there that none of, English Western concepts caught on until more recently.
Well, drinking was a thing there. People did drink,
yeah.
But in the south, in the north especially, they drank more. In the south, maybe not as much, but the bar culture wasn't there. There wasn't really.
Oh, there's no bar culture.
Yeah, bar culture was very frowned upon. It was like a very.
Is it too social?
Like, not too social. It was considered just like sinful almost. It's like the closest equivalent I can think of, but it's just considered like. People of good class didn't go to bars.
Okay.
It was that's how it was in like, from what I remember seeing. There was more progressive cities than the one that I used to visit in India.
You were in New Delhi, right?
I went to Chennai a lot,
Chennai,
which is one of the more conservative cities.
Okay.
Bangalore's a much more progressive city, and from what I hear, they've been doing bars and stuff for a few decades and stuff.
Okay.
And it's not a big deal.
And so, did you work your way from those coding shops and out of India? Is that how you got all your money, or did you ask your parents to like? Hey?
No, I saved up enough money. I worked for long enough in India that I saved up enough money to buy a plane ticket to Europe.
You're like, all right, peace. And so then you went to Europe. Okay, why'd you choose Europe? Were you just like, I'm not ready to go home yet?
Yeah, partly that. Partly was I had a friend who was traveling through Europe at the time, and he's like, if you meet me in Ireland, I have a place for you to. There was like wolfing, which is like the.
The farming.
Right. So we went to Ireland and we worked out of a farm for a few weeks there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Was that a culture shock going from a city in India to the countryside of Ireland?
Countryside of Ireland, I hadn't been home and I hadn't left I'd never been anywhere outside of America and India before that trip for the most part.
Except Brazil.
Yeah, just Brazil during that trip I'd done. And Brazil was totally different. And I went to Ireland expecting something very different from America. And when I landed there, it felt so close to being in America. They spoke English. It was very modern that I was like, this feels like it could just be a state in America compared to everywhere else I've been.
This could be Massachusetts extended.
Right.
And so, weren't you sleeping on the side of the road?
We did a couple times, yeah.
It's pretty baller.
We were all trying to save money. So we had a car, we had sleeping bags, we had tents. We perched tents all across Ireland, just anywhere where we could find open space. It was the middle of September, so
you must have gotten a great sleep outside.
Yeah, some days we got great sleep. Some days the weather got really cold and we didn't get such a great sleep.
Oh my! It must have been frigid.
Yeah, it was about the end of September then. So
So
it was
really...
a colder fall, they said, than normal. So we were down in the 30s and 40s pretty much every night.
Okay. Were you sleeping in the tent or were you outside the tent?
In the tent.
It's just because there's something about you and sleeping outside,
I do like sleeping outside.
You do like sleeping outside. When Kedar first came to Everipedia, I just want everyone to know this, we did not have room in our apartment. Actually, he might have had room, but he just chose to sleep outside on our balcony. He literally got a sleeping bag, got a foam mat, got a pillow, and slept outside outside my balcony door for a good 2-3 months.
Right. I had 2 options coming in, I think. It was either you and Angel were sleeping in a bunk in one room.
Yeah.
And it was either
sleep on the floor.
Right. Sleep on the floor next to you guys or sleep outside and get my own space. So my reasoning was that if I go outside, at least I have my own privacy when I sleep for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, every night I get a little bit of privacy.
Yeah.
Versus if I'm in the room with you guys.
It's like your little cocoon.
Right.
And it was nice because it was fall in LA.
Yeah. Temperature wasn't bad.
It was August to October. And then I remember for the first BlockCon, we had Suchet come visit for the first time. We had more people come visit, and we were just packed beyond belief. Remember that?
We had 12 people that?
Yeah.
Right? Because who's the WeFunder guy that came?
The WeFunder guy. I know his name.
Dylan
Enright, right? Yeah. He was the first one to tell me about Sapiens.
It's a good book.
Yeah. I did end up reading it a year and a half later. Thank you, Dylan. If you're watching this, good recommendation. But yeah, I think he set up an air mattress in our computer area, and it was right by my computer. I was like, I can't really work anymore.
Yeah.
Might as well. And then after that, you started sleeping inside because you got your first taste of sleeping inside, and it was just starting to get cold. And you're just like, yeah, I'm gonna go inside. And then you were sleeping on our floor.
Right.
Yeah.
That's once the winter hit. It was winter being it was dropping to I think I was good all the way up until the middle of January. I think around in the middle of January we had that cold spell where it dropped to early the low 40s outdoors, and I was sleeping outside, and I was on a yoga mat.
Yeah.
And the yoga mat wasn't keeping the cold from the floor out anymore, so it was literally freezing me from the bottom, and I was like, screw this.
Rough. Yeah. And so we kind of fast forward there. Let's roll it back to Ireland. So, from Ireland, you were wolfing, you were sleeping in tents.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you go after Ireland?
Ireland, I went to the East Coast for a bit, then I came back home.
So you circumnavigated the globe.
Dude, yeah.
Kind of like a very strange,
A circle, yeah.
Yeah, East Coast and then home. And then when did you go to New York?
Moved to New York. I was in LA. I
lived
in the Bay for a year. I lived in LA for a year, and then I moved to New York for a year.
And that's how you got into crypto.
Right. That was about 2017, early 2017.
So how'd you first get into it?
I went to this. I went to a workshop in Brooklyn where there was a guy named Chris Dannon teaching people how to set up accounts on Poloniex and trade
in Trollbox. Teaching you how to properly troll in the Trollbox. It's amazing how fast the hot exchange goes, the trending exchange. 2017, it was Poloniex, then it was Coinbase. Well, Coinbase has been around for a while, and now it's Binance. Or then it was Bitfinex, and then Bitfinex left the U.S. customers. There were no more U.S. customers. Now it's Binance. Now Binance is the absolute king.
Right.
What do you think about exchange? How do you how exchanges kind of trade their top position? Do you see anybody going after Binance, or do you think Binance is pretty well established?
I think we're more established now because we're in a bear market and there's not too many new competitors coming up. But 2017 was wild because you're right. Poloniex, Bittrex was really big in between.
Bittrex, yeah.
Yeah, because at the time Poloniex was the only place that traded altcoins.
Oh.
That I can remember. There was maybe some smaller ones. Yeah, and then it was Bittrex, Bitfinex, like you said.
Kraken,
yeah. Binance. Yeah, there was every 2 months there was a new exchange popping up in 2017.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Because of all the ICOs, all these new coins being created out of thin air.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so you were there right before the first boom, right?
Yeah, my first trade. I bought my first Bitcoin in 2013, and I forgot about it for 3 years.
And so you used that Bitcoin?
I had Bitcoin left over in Coinbase, and I think I lost the account. I didn't have the password for the account.
You should recover that password.
I should go back.
You should go contact Coinbase right now.
Yeah, figure that out.
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I lost the email address to that too, so I don't think I'm ever getting that one back.
Well.
But
in the black hole.
Yeah, the first trade I made was I bought Ethereum the end of 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, and this was, I think the pump was around February.
Yeah, that's the first pump.
Right.
And when it pumped, were you like, oh wow, there's something here, maybe I should look into it more?
When it pumped, the first thing I did was sold everything I had.
Smart.
Yeah, it 3x in like 4 weeks, and I was like, okay, this is crashing, sell.
And did it crash?
It didn't.
It kept on going?
It kept on going, and I bought back in at 2x the price I sold at. But, yeah, I mean, it was still a good trade.
Yeah. Well, at the time, people don't know what's going on. It's so hard to predict the future.
Yeah, at the time, I remember the first major ICO was was it the Gnosis ICO? Do you remember that one?
No, I wasn't in crypto then. I didn't start paying attention till summer of 2014, just before the summer of 2017. That's when I started, all right, I need to pay attention. Because I saw Mabu sitting in his chair I saw him make that trade from trading his Bitcoin for Ethereum, and I wasn't really paying attention. And then once I heard it going up and up, and I just saw Mabu just all his crypto funds going up and up, I'm just like, what am I doing? He's literally just sitting on his ass. Well, all this shit goes up. I need to start studying this. And that's how I got into crypto. And then also just Everipedia, exploring crypto as well.
Okay.
So when did you start developing on Ethereum?
Right around February, I think.
Okay. And so then you joined the Ethereum. Were you involved in consensus at all, or were you just going to different meetups?
I knew a bunch of the guys that worked at Consensus because the community was pretty small then.
Okay.
But it was mostly just meetups. They had an Ethereum developers meetup. They had a bunch of other crypto meetups in New York, and I was at all of them.
Could you feel the excitement at those meetups when it was starting to bubble and go up higher and higher? Yeah,
I remember distinctly. We were meeting
distinctly, you remember.
So I joined an accelerator. So not an accelerator, sorry. It was like a co-working space dedicated to crypto, and there was a total of 3 of us working out of it, in Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. We used to hold meetups at that co-working space, and they used to get about 10 people out per meetup in January.
Okay.
By February, that number was up to 30.
Okay.
By March, we were looking at the room was packed, and we needed
another pump right there. It just kept on pumping those numbers. Okay, and then by the summer, it was just complete mania by that time. I remember, because then Bitcoin started to follow in the summer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I remember distinctly when Bitcoin was going up, and I'm just like, is this it? Did I miss it? Did I miss the pump? And then it went back down to 1,700, and actually no, maybe my timeline's messed up. But I remember in June it pumping. I'm just like, I think I'm too late to it. And little did I know that we were too early. And so you were talking to Everipedia at this time?
Yeah, I started talking to Sam in January.
January, and then eventually what convinced you to join Everipedia full time?
Me and Sam we weren't even talking about Everipedia. We were talking about
crypto
stuff nonstop. We would be messaging each other back and forth about Ethereum, about Bitcoin, just talking about what the future of crypto was. And at some point, Sam called me in August, and he was like, "Hey, I met this guy, Brock Pierce. He's we're going to a meetup in San Francisco, and we're going to speak, and we're going to present Everipedia. I want to run the talk by you." So he tell me what he was going to say, and I was like, "That sounds like a great idea." He came back from it, and he called me the next day too, and he was like, "Hey, we got a great reception from it.
Yeah.
What do you think about coming out here to LA for a few weeks, and we'll see if we can maybe do something crypto related with Everipedia." Yeah. And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I thought the idea was great."
And then you got your sleeping bag and flew across the country.
Yep.
And then you went to, I remember you guys went to Ethereum Waterloo, right?
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was the best hackathon. Besides the EOS hackathons.
Besides the EOS hackathons, to make that clear.
Yeah.
It was the best hackathon.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the EOS hackathons are amazing. But this one was it was the best hackathon I'd been to at the time. Okay. It was full of Ethereum developers, and everyone was trying to, Maker, remember, that's the first time I talked to MakerDAO. Basis came out that weekend. Basis came out with their white paper that weekend, so we were talking to MakerDAO about.
Back when it was Basecoin.
Yeah, Basecoin.
Basecoin.
Yeah.
And so that you guys were talking about that, and you guys met the CryptoKitties people right before the CryptoKitties phase.
Yeah, they were there. CryptoKitties wasn't even a thing yet. I remember they won like first or second place at the hackathon, and we were all like, "Well, this is one of the dumbest things we've ever done." I remember distinctly saying that, like, "Who the fuck would want to trade kitties?"
Little did you realize at Thanksgiving, one would be selling for $100,000 worth of Ethereum. Yeah. Go figure.
So there's my future predictability right there.
And you were writing a book at that time.
I started writing the book soon after that, right? Okay. It was about Ethereum smart contracts and how to develop them, yeah.
Wow. So you went from hitting somebody up from a mass email, learned how to code, and then you're on the bleeding edge of development, and you wrote your own book on Ethereum smart contracts and coding on Ethereum.
Yeah, and I think Everipedia, we are at the bleeding edge of development right now in crypto.
Yeah, definitely. How does coding on Ethereum compare to coding on EOS?
Ethereum is much more difficult to code in. Solidity is its own language. It doesn't have a lot of tooling around it.
Yeah.
And the Ethereum development environment, it's just when you try and test things, it's 15-second block times for like a production test is just a pain to work through.
That's so aggravating, just waiting.
Yeah, the user experience is really bad. I wouldn't even say the coding experience is bad, which it isn't great. The user experience is really bad for people trying to use it. So it's just, I remember thinking as I was building it, like this... Yeah.
You're kind of getting a feeling like this is just too difficult for it to catch on.
It was kind of, it was like the dirty little secret that was going around. Like, we all knew it kind of sucked.
But it was the only game in town at the time.
It was the only game in town, and we were all making, we were all doubling our money every 2 or 3 months on it, so no one was going to be the one to say it. Everyone was too happy to just, go along for the ride.
Everybody, there were so many ICOs per week, and everyone pumped.
Right.
All these crypto YouTubers showed up. Crypto Twitter was popping.
Right.
It was a crazy time.
So I was a contractor that did Solidity development work. And another thing that was really surprising at the time is, despite the boom, so, Ethereum went up, 100x in a few months. Despite that, never at any point was there a high demand for actual Solidity contract work, for original Solidity contract work. The majority of work I did as a Solidity developer was... ERC20 tokens for people. So people would hire me to write an ERC20 token for them. I would just package it up. I would toss it up on the mainnet, and I'd charge them, a flat fee for it.
Okay. So it wasn't really about the development. It was just about making money.
It was about getting a token out so they could ICO.
ICO.
So ICO contracts, I wrote a couple ICO contracts, and I sent a bunch of... So the ICO contracts were custom.
Yeah.
Those ones were, actual Solidity development. And then ERC20 tokens, but I don't think I never developed a DApp. I did develop one DApp for somebody, and they never actually ended up. The bear market hit before they could release the DApp, and they went out of business. And
on Ethereum.
On Ethereum, yeah.
I don't know how it would work with its transaction throughput.
It was supposed to be some application that stored people's data, and the token was a way to access data or something. It wasn't feasible.
Yeah, so I was about to say something. So. Have you seen any ICOs on EOS, or has EOS been mostly airdrops? Because Everipedia started the airdrop trend, but I haven't heard of any ICOs on EOS.
I don't think I've heard of any.
Yeah, it's just people kind of just launching tokens in airdrop. I think it's just been airdrops.
I think for the most part, yeah.
Which is really interesting. Okay, and then...
What do you think about the airdrop model versus ICO?
I like it better. Because of the distribution, wider distribution. I think it makes the developers and the team kind of work more for their money, because they need to produce something of value for their token to be something of value. So they can't just raise a bunch of money. Mm-hmm. It's kind of trippy to think about how fast people would raise money in the prime of the ICO days, $30 million in 30 seconds. That's never happened before in humanity, and people were just looking like, whoa, it didn't matter what the project was, it didn't matter who the team was, but the fact that this was now possible, people were starting to pay attention. Because, I don't know, what do you think of the airdrop model?
I think it's a good model.
I'm not sure if it's the future, though. I feel like there could be a better model out there.
Yeah, the problem with the airdrop model, and we've seen this with Everipedia, is that about, of your airdrop tokens, about 90% of them get stuck and never enter circulation.
Oh.
So Everipedia, I mean, most of our tokens are frozen in somebody's account that's never touched their IQ. Because we airdrop to, 160,000 people is what we airdrop to.
And so can you keep track of the movements of all the IQ? Can you tell?
Yeah, we could.
So 90% haven't been moved yet?
That's a guess, but yeah, I think that's about right. 90% of the accounts haven't touched their IQ. So I wouldn't say 90% of the IQ hasn't been touched. Quite a lot of the IQ is out, but anyone with a smaller amount didn't really.
Oh, okay.
So I'd say 90% of the accounts didn't touch it, but probably about only 30 or 40%.
I'm sure a lot has to do with it being on exchanges. For example, on Binance, there's a lot of people that, got their IQ, but they don't know where to move it. So they just leave it on Binance. I feel like that would make sense. We'll see what happens in the future with Everipedia, but if it goes up, and I feel like there's gonna be more movement.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it's funny, the Binance example, actually, we looked it up today. Binance somehow owns more tokens than they got during the airdrop right now. So the Binance Cold Wallet is the 7th largest holder of IQ tokens, despite Binance does not list IQ. So it's kind of weird.
You think they would benefit from listing it? They have all this IQ. Yeah. At least they're in position to list it. More so, better than other exchanges, and I would feel like it would be to their benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what things are coming down the IQ pipeline? Aren't we coming out with some big DApps soon?
Yeah,
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I'll tell you about Predict. The prediction market.
How is the IQ token utilized in Predict?
Currently, for the first version of Predict, you're going to use IQ as a market creation fee. So anybody's going to be free to create a market on Predict. They're going to have to burn IQ in order to make that market. And then the trading itself occurs in EOS. Okay, so
is it kind of like how BNB, Binance Coin works? Like they use BNB as like the fee token?
No. Your fees are also going to be paid. Your transaction fees will be paid in EOS. The only thing we use the IQ for is as a market creation fee.
Oh.
At the beginning, we're going to set a fixed amount. And anyone that wants to create a market, the reasoning behind this is we want people to create only high quality markets, and we don't want there to be a ton of markets for a single event. So we're setting the threshold for the market creation fee quite high. We're making it a few $100s worth of IQ required to start a market. So unless you think you're going to recoup that number in fees, you should be starting a market.
Okay, so you have high standards for it.
Right.
I can't wait till this comes out. And especially in time for the elections. It's going to be great for primary season and for the general election and for debates.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be exciting. Because I actually played with prediction markets back in 2016.
Okay. What did you...
I used Predict It.
Okay.
And I remember I had a conversation with one of my friends because I kind of just had a feeling Trump would win. I kind of just felt the sentiment online. I saw the sentiment online. And I saw him being a workhorse. Regardless of their policies, I saw Trump being a workhorse, having all these rallies, really reaching out to the people, going to the tough battleground states. And I saw Hillary Clinton not nearly do that, maybe not even half as much, and she was going more towards dinners and donors and whatnot. And I just had a hunch that Trump would win, so I put some money up on Predicted that Trump would win. And I was talking to one of my friends who's also into politics, who was working in D.C., and he was like, no, there's no way Trump's winning. And I said, yeah, he's going to win. I even put it out and predicted it. I really have a feeling the sentiment is more in his favor. And then this was in the summer. And then everything happened and he won. And then he literally messaged me, you're right. And I was just like, yeah, I'm right. It felt good.
How much money did you bet? What odds did you get to?
I bet probably $10 and it turns to $100.
Nice.
It was 10%, and I'm just like, oh, this is too good not to do. It felt good. It was but it really exposed. Going back to the media, when you were talking about how the media shapes stories, it really exposed how the media just kind of shaped stories to get impressions. Everything was an outrage for Trump, and there was just constant outrage in the media. And I mean, he got a lot of views for them. I'm sure CNN and all their ratings went through the roof, but it really didn't do well for the national discourse overall. And it was really toxic towards the national discourse, making everything about Trump this, Trump that.
Yeah, you were pretty deep into the
Oh yeah.
You were like what would I say? You were infiltrating the Trump movement.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I like to call myself the Hunter S. Thompson of conservative political discourse online at my time at Everipedia, because there were a lot of topics and people that people were really looking into, but they just weren't getting the proper coverage in mainstream media. So there were, like, for example, every month there would be a new meme or person that would come out of Berkeley in the beginning of 2017, because there's all these riots and protests and people speaking. One I remember specifically was the bike lock guy, Eric Clayton. He would show up at these rallies and events, and he would assault Trump supporters with a bike lock. And there were multiple videos of him assault. Yeah,
Okay.
like complete assault. And I remember seeing on 4chan, it was like, all right, guys, we have to find out who this is. Like, we got to stop this shit. And within 3 days, they found him. They used the smallest clues, like it's like a tattoo, his boots, a pencil in his back pocket, and a bike. And they found his OkCupid profile, and it said on his OkCupid profile, "I'm never leaving my house without my bike, my pencil, and my boots." And it's saying like the hair matched up, and it ended up being him. And I was following it. I was on 4chan following it, and eventually I made his page, and it actually came out that he was the bike lock guy, and he was arrested.
Okay.
And so
Everipedia had a page about this guy, saying that he was the bike lock guy before anybody else really like broke it.
Yeah, once it was confirmed, then I put it on the page.
But you had a page about him before it was confirmed.
Yeah, I knew, basically. Okay. I mean, it was the evidence was overwhelming and clear and without a doubt enough for me to basically say that. And it was really showed this public crowdsourced intelligence of 4chan that's really underrated and that people don't look into. People are like, oh, 4chan, that racist fringe site. And it's like, no, there's like a lot. I mean, yes, there are those people on there, but it's really like where anything goes, and like people can actually get out their opinions and get out there, make arguments without being judged because it's anonymous. I think one of the craziest things 4chan's done is they took the same concept of crowdsourced intelligence, but they did it with ISIS. So that in this one board, so what I said happened on the poll board. So there are different boards, and that was on poll board where they discuss politics. And this was on the I think the R9K board. They were like, all right, guys, like we got to find this ISIS camp. And then they located it, and then one of the dudes is like, hey, I have a Russian dude in the military. And then they showed the messages of hitting up the Russian dude, and they used, sky physicians. They used the smallest clues, and they picked him out. And they ended up bombing the ISIS camp, and it was in the news. They literally used public crowdsourced intelligence to find the ISIS camp. And I think the best example of, actually probably the most well-known example of that was, you ever hear of He Will Not Divide Us? With Shia LaBeouf? No. So Shia LaBeouf had this thing, this kind of political art show at the beginning of Trump's presidency, He Will Not Divide Us, where it was like a camera that was supposed to be up all 4 years of his presidency, and like Shia would be like in front of the camera saying, He will not divide us, He will not divide us.
Oh, okay.
And then like different people would just come up and just troll the camera and stuff. And it was a complete mess. Within a month, it was shut down. It was at an art museum in New York, and it was shut down. I would have loved to see that meme in action. And then at one point, when they tried to do the camera in New Mexico, didn't work out. I think there was a shooting in front of it, or some crazy shit happened. And then he just set up a flag. He set up a flag somewhere randomly in the U.S. and said, He will not divide us. He had filmed it. It was supposed to be up all 4 years of his presidency. And then 4chan's just like, this is the biggest game of capture the flag of all time. Let's find it, boys and girls. And so then they did this. They mapped the celestial positions. They kind of figured out where Shia was that day, like when he announced the flag, and it was somewhere in Tennessee or North Carolina. And within 3 days, they found the flag. These people found it, they took it down, and they replaced it with like a Trump Pepe flag. Okay. And it was honestly hilarious. And it was great because it was just people of all different. It didn't matter your race or ethnicity, but everybody just thought it was funny. It was just so ridiculous, this thing.
I think 4chan's the most impressive site on the internet.
It's definitely underrated. It's not as much in the news now as it was at the beginning of Trump's presidency. I think what happened was I think what happened with the Trump whole movement, like it was very strong at the beginning, but things fractured easily, and then you kind of had the alt-right and the alt-light kind of just dissect from each other, kind of just they separated like pretty rough, and I think it came at a head in the summer of 2017 with that guy that ran over people in Charlottesville. They had the Unite the Right rally.
Mm-hmm.
See, what's his name? James Alex Fields. James Alex Fields ran over people. And the big difference between the Unite the Right rally and the He Will Not Divide Us, if you see the He Will Not Divide Us in January, you had people of all different like races and ages and colors. They were all coming up in the camera trolling. And it felt like the internet was coming to life. The Unite the Right rally felt like an actual white supremacist hate rally.
Okay.
And they're like saying like, Hebes will not divide us, which is Jew, Hebrew. Hebes will not divide us. They were saying like it looked scary. It looked like terrible optics. I'm just like, this is the end. This is really bad. It was really like it was very disturbing. Brought up definitely a lot of memories of America's not so great past, and it ended in tragedy. And actually, when that was happening, the guy, I remember trying to find the driver. And at first, he was misidentified as somebody that was at a wedding because the car was registered to him, and they thought it was this one kid who was a Bernie supporter who didn't like Trump, and there was news reports coming out that it was him, but it just didn't feel right. Something was off about it. So I made his page, but I didn't say it was him. I just kind of made a profile of him, and that just like a normal page. He was just a musician or something, and then I was like, something's not right here. And then it came out that it was James Alex Fields. I made the page right away, and I remember I was actually the first one to find that out. And I still have the screenshot. There was probably 13,000 people on the site that day.
Oh, I remember that. Okay.
Yeah, that was nuts.
That was the biggest. Was that the
biggest?
biggest?
Yeah, that was the biggest. That was the most traffic we've had on the site of all time.
Okay.
And I'm just like, wow, this is nuts. Back in the day, whenever I got a hit page like that, I got like such a high. It was like such a
I remember that because the site was, we live and died by
It was all about traffic back then because there was no blockchain. So it was just a normal website, and what matters then is just eyes. And so, it felt like just such a rush of adrenaline when I got that, just seeing 13,000 people on the site at once and hundreds of thousands of people reading the page. It's just like, whoa, how is this? And we did all, what's crazy about that is we did all just from that office in 972.
Yeah, it was an apartment.
It was, how I did things was I just talked to people on the internet constantly and networked and just made connections, and I felt like I exposed myself more than reporters who live in DC and New York and in these bubbles that just talk to each other. We, like the main executive editors at Everipedia, were just actually talking to real people and getting the real story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember there was one where you guys went on, I think it was like when Lil Peep overdosed.
Oh, yeah, Mariah Bonds.
Right, you guys.
That was nuts. Yeah, I found that page.
You guys were on Snapchat or something communicating with her?
No, I was communicating with her friend. Okay,
right.
So the story behind this, if listeners don't know, Lil Peep was a SoundCloud rapper. He was about to be big time. He was already big time, but he was about to like break into the mainstream. He was huge, and he was a rock star. And he passed away tragically from a Xanax overdose with Xanax laced with fentanyl. And that one really hit me hard because like, he was really talented. You could even feel the sadness in his music. And I felt really I didn't really want to make the page for the person that was accused because I didn't want to be irresponsible and just in case she wasn't it. But there was starting to be enough evidence that she had not that she did it, but she had something to do with it. And so I was just, I have to make this page. Like, I'm not going to make this page. So I kind of just got as many screenshots as I could, did enough research, try to create a narrative. And it seemed like an accident, to be honest. Like, it seems like she got him drugs, and the drugs happened to be laced. It didn't seem like there was malicious intent. It seemed like a complete accident, but you gotta test your drugs, people, because it's dangerous out there. And he ended up ODing, and I remember how violent the mob was after her. There was like #KillMariah on Twitter, because what happened was her ex-girlfriend made a fake Instagram account and somebody there's a screenshot of the fake Instagram account saying, "Why'd you do it?" And she said, "Because I needed the money. Like, I didn't care about his life."
Oh shit.
So she had an ex-girlfriend that made that, and I found that out because her friend emailed the site or something, or I got in contact with her friend, and I was actually on the phone with her friend, and she was like, "Yeah, Mariah's in hiding. Like, she feels terrible." And I feel like, think about it. You're a fan. People are accusing you of killing your favorite artist. That's terrible. That's so sad.
Yeah.
And I remember, I'm proud of that page because it didn't say she did outright, but eventually like the cops were looking to whether she did it or not. To be honest, I don't know what ended up happening to her. I tried to email the friends again for updates, but I didn't get anything. But yeah, that was pretty. That page ended up like a few 100,000 views. That was nuts because people are like, "Who's Mariah Bonds? Who's Mariah Bonds?" So Mariah, if you're out there, I wonder what happened to you. I don't know. That was pretty crazy. That was back when the site was more. I felt more like a journalist.
Yeah.
And now I'm not really doing too much of that. I still follow like internet trends and stuff, but I'm not really doing breaking news.
Yeah, the culture of that apartment was very, very unique.
Yeah.
It's like it's what allowed the site to be, different from anybody else.
It felt really cool because we were taking things that aren't necessarily thought as scholarly, like breaking news, and like made them scholarly. That's what I thought. What made Everipedia cool early on, and like it still is cool. That's what we still do. It's kind of we have this new element of blockchain and crypto, and you can earn crypto and stuff. But I think that culture of just making pages that are cool is definitely still there.
Definitely.
Yeah, like I mean that's what I try to do with my internet culture roundup. I try to find the cool pages made that week, unique pages made that week, and just show them out to people.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a crazy time. I have so many stories like of different pages and people I made. I lived it for 2 years.
Yeah, each one of them is like each page was like its own little like exploration of kinds where you would go in, you would dig in, you would find out more about the event or the person or something. And it would one page would often lead to a series of pages, right? You would
make a rabbit hole. Yeah, definitely. Especially when all the political stuff is happening, because there's always more than one person involved. For example, with Moldilocks and Nathan Domingo, when Nathan Domingo punched that woman in the face, we already had a page for him. So then it was up to making the page for Moldilocks. That was another big page. That was.
It showed like one of the huge advantages we had over Wikipedia, which was
much more robust.
Much more robust. Our information came out much faster, and we were willing to cover things that actually, it was fairly major for a short, localized amount of time.
Yeah.
So Wikipedia is like, okay, this isn't notable across 2 years, 3 years, 4 years across. Like, is this something people are going to want to read 5 years from now?
Yeah.
Ours is more like, this is something people want to read today. It's good scholarly information that covers all that.
Yeah, people want to read it today, and it's meant to be read years from now. That's how I always viewed making wikis. It's like I'm keeping track of the record for if somebody in the future wants to know what happened about Mariah Bonds or wants to know what happened with Eric Clayton, they can just look up the Everipedia page.
Right.
Yeah, which is really cool. Yeah, that was nuts. What was it like as an observer for the first time coming to the Everipedia apartment? Because you visited in 2017 before you joined full-time, right?
I visited in 2016 for the first time.
Yeah.
I visited in 2016, right, during the period when the Google SEO penalty hit.
Ugh,
so the
dark times.
Yeah.
The dark period.
That was really like, the energy
rough.
Was very somber in
Yeah.
the apartment at the time.
It was really stressful because it was just like there's nothing we can do about it. For people that aren't familiar with dealing with websites, Google is God basically. Google is everything, and if you're not in the good graces of Google, you might as well not exist. And we were not in the good graces of Google, so we had to do a lot of creative things on Facebook and Twitter and other platforms to get traffic, and hence why I consider myself a quasi-journalist, because I wasn't reporting the news. I was kind of like reporting on the reports of the news to construct a narrative that I saw as the most balanced narrative.
Yeah, that's what I almost when I came to visit in the second time around when I actually joined the company. My first impression was that this is a newsroom. This isn't really because there was one developer, right? It was Travis for the most part.
Yeah, it was Travis.
Sam was also doing some development.
Yeah.
Mostly it was Travis maintaining the site.
It was mainly a newsroom.
And there were 6 people working on it full time. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what kept the site going, was a constant stream of pages and breaking news and stuff.
Yeah, and it was very interesting. It wasn't like your typical news site where you cover, they might be covering international events, things. It was, we're going to cover hyper local news and
Trending
cultural.
things.
It's like a cultural.
The up and coming Wiccan culture. That's what I call Everipedia. It's, if you want to know something up and coming, if you want to know something that's on the bleeding edge, even before blockchain, on the bleeding edge of culture,
right.
Everipedia is the place to go. And I mean that not just by breaking news, but I mean that in music as well, especially music. That was our bread and butter too. The one thing where, well, actually, the Google pendency was lifted right when 6ix9ine was getting popular.
Okay.
And so once that was lifted, 6ix9ine, because Wikipedia ignored 6ix9ine for so long, they ignored him for, I first heard of him in July of 2017, and then they didn't make his page till January 2018. And so for that 6-7 month period, we were getting all the traffic. At one point, there were 69 people on 6ix9ine's page. I swear to God. Yeah, but he was getting so much traffic. It was crazy, and I was the one that originally made that page, and I originally saw him. I didn't even know he was a rapper. I saw a meme of him in July. It was like, when you defeat all the SoundCloud rappers, this is the final boss. And I thought I was late to SoundCloud rap, because at the time, I was making a lot of pages for past rappers that got big on SoundCloud, like Suicide Boys, Bones, Xavier Wolf. We just started making pages for Little Pump was starting to get big, Smoke Perp was getting big. And I was like, oh, I'm late to the SoundCloud wave. Little did I realize it was about to take the country by storm. And 6ix9ine was going to be one of the most controversial figures at the forefront. And so when I first saw a picture of 6ix9ine, it was like, when you defeat all the SoundCloud rappers, this is the final boss. And I'm just like, who the fuck is this guy with this huge 6ix9ine on his forehead? He's smoking a cigarette, and he just has this troll smile, just like, he's that he's like, I know something you don't know. I'm fucking with all you, like, and I don't give a shit. Like, that was the look he had in his face. I'm just like, okay, I don't know who he is. I'm gonna make his page. And I was just like, oh, 6ix9ine is a meme based in New York City, and I saw that he was actually going viral before on Reddit with he had really obscene fashion. He would like wear a sweatshirt that said "Pussy Eater 6ix9ine" on it, and he was like AIDS on his pants or some shit. And I was just like, so he's always been going viral. And then I realized he was a rapper. And he had some of the craziest rap videos I've ever seen. The way he mixed pyrotechnics with anime, with violence. They were just like you couldn't keep your eyes off it. I'd never seen anything like it. It was really creative. And this was before Gummo, which was his big mainstream hit. And so I really constructed his page in July and August. And there was an interview that I basically watched. I would basically watch No Jumper interviews and make Everipedia pages off No Jumper interviews.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I watched that. There was a few other interviews that came out, and yeah, I mean, it was a pretty solid page. I got a lot of pictures in there, a lot of information, and by the time Gummo came out in October, he just blew up because he was this kid with rainbow hair with a bunch of bloods like rapping on the street. And I remember in the No Jumper interview, he was talking about, like when I was mentioning the music videos, and Adam22 was like talking to him about the music videos, he was like, yeah, like I'm not about doing stuff like being with gang signs and shit. And then his next video was exactly what he said he didn't do. And he was literally the Donald Trump of hip hop. He became the biggest troll in hip hop. He was just, from there, he actually, every song he released became a hit. He went 9 for 9 or 10 for 10 on Billboard. Every song he released. Yeah. And it was the same way how like Trump talks about like numbers for getting jobs. Like we have the most jobs. Like we have the best. You know how like Trump hypes stuff up.
Yeah.
6ix9ine would kind of hype stuff up in the same way. And they're both from New York City. They're both trolls. There's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah, 6ix9ine is
Tekashi 6ix9ine.
Tekashi 6ix9ine, yeah. He's from
Bushwick.
He's from Bushwick, right?
Did you live in Bushwick?
Bushwick was the neighborhood I lived in.
You ever see 6ix9ine around?
I saw 6ix9ine around, but when I saw that I didn't know anything about Tekashi. I read his Everipedia, and I saw he was from Bushwick, and I was like, this makes a lot of sense. If I imagined a celebrity coming out of Bushwick,
it would be this guy.
It would be this guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it made complete sense to me.
And when I was observing, I was always update his page, and when I was observing him, I'm just like, this dude is pure chaos. This dude is just the embodiment of chaos. He's either end up dead or end up in jail, and you know what? He almost ended up dead because his manager planned to hit on him, and then he ended up going to jail and got hit with a RICO. But now it's coming out that he basically snitched on all his boys. But then again, they all tried to kill him anyway, so it wouldn't make sense. Like
Okay.
it makes sense why he snitched, and he's probably gonna get released in January of 2020.
Seriously? I thought he was in jail for life.
He was facing 47 years.
Okay.
But with the current deal and his cooperation, the last thing I read was he plans to get released in 2020. And the reason, and also, going back to like when his songs were getting popular, he had a bunch of label deals, but he signed with, I think it was 10,000 Records with Elliot Garage, whose father's in the music industry, and Elliot Garage gave 6ix9ine complete creative control. He was just like, I don't have the most money, but you can do whatever you want if you sign with me. And 6ix9ine signed with him. And that's probably a big reason why he was so successful, because he wasn't limited in his box. And as much as people hated him, he just kept on getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But he definitely had a controversial past with, the whole child sex thing. It's just like, that's messed up. I kind of feel like the news. I mean, actually, Genius did was it Genius? Genius covered that pretty. That's funny. Mobboot's old site. Genius covered that pretty thoroughly. They actually talked to, I think, either the mother or victim, and I put all the information on Everipedia. But we have a whole section about like that, about what happened, and it's since the person that was with 6ix9ine is in prison right now. The other person that was involved is in prison, but 6ix9ine somehow got out of it. I don't know.
Okay.
It's kind of, the whole thing's messed up. But yeah, fucking 6ix9ine.
Yeah.
Well, I felt like this interview went from me interviewing you to you interviewing me. I really hope the mic's working. Imagine if the mic would.
That would really suck.
Yeah, no, the mic's definitely. I mean, I've seen it. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Yeah, the first interview I ever did with Sam, the mic wasn't working. I'm just like, oh my god. Like, it was a great interview. It was back in 2017 with Bitcoin for Plebs. We were just talking about stablecoins, so I got into crypto and mining. We were both 30 pounds heavier. And we were both in the second apartment in 972. Yeah. So the Everipedia team got so big with you joining.
Yeah.
It was just getting too much, so we got a second apartment.
Yeah, that was a big That
was a big upgrade.
Yeah, that was like, luxury living for us, going from living in 10 people in a 4-bedroom to what was it? We got another 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
So we had 4 people in a 2-bedroom, and we put up some nice furniture and stuff, and
it felt like an actual home.
Yeah.
I felt like the living room. It was like, wow, I miss having this, because before it was like bed, desk, bed, desk, bed, desk, and it was just
the most. If anyone's thinking of running a startup, the most efficient way to run a startup is to do that.
Yeah, honestly.
Bedroom, office. The living room is your office. Just code or work out of there.
Yeah.
Probably the most productive I've been in my life. But
same.
To the point where if I'd done it for another year, I would have
burned out.
Yeah. I haven't burned out. I would have just wanted to punch somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like I was in Fight Club, honestly. I'm just like a constant cycle.
Oh yeah, we would have arguments all the time in there. There was no way you could get away from people too. So when an argument broke out between people, everyone was there listening in on it. So we'd be like, oh shit, okay, these two are going at it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was that, and during the dark period.
Big Brother. That's what it was like.
And during the dark period, it was just so kind of stressful because the site wasn't doing as well as it once did with the Google penalty. It was just all about getting hits.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and it was like, it felt like, how can we get out of this? But I knew if we got out of it, that we would be huge. And it turned out that we did get out of it. We made the right decision pivoting towards blockchain. And then the Google penalty was lifted. And now, here we are. And now I have a podcast with Everipedia.
And now we're about to rebuild the internet.
Literally, we went from just creating an alternative to Wikipedia. It's just like, oh, how can we make the encyclopedia a little bit better, the same way Wikipedia did it with Encyclopedia Britannica. And they had I feel like, I'm not sure how the online presence of Encyclopedia Britannica was in 2000, 2001, but I can't imagine being it that much. And so Wikipedia had just the perfect opportunity to just become the dominant player in that sphere, and now it's obviously one of the pillars of the internet. Everyone knows what Wikipedia is, and now same thing with Everipedia, but on the blockchain. Like Everipedia is the first one to kind of make a presence of a large encyclopedia on the blockchain, and we have the advantage of having all the content already, and so. That's, yeah.
Let me spend some time talking about the justification between going from. So it used to be Everipedia was the IQ network. They were one and the same. And in the past few months, we've moved from that to the IQ network is now its own thing, and Everipedia is just one of the dApps on the IQ network.
Yeah, it's getting so much bigger than when I originally joined.
Right. And the reasoning behind that was that we started seeing there was hundreds and thousands of tokens out there, and we realized no one's going to go out and buy your specific token just to use your app. So our thought was, okay, what can we do to add more value to this token so that people will actually go out and get this token? And we thought, okay, well, why have just one dApp using a token? Like we have, there's the EOS token that gets used for a ton of different dApps.
Yeah.
Why can't the IQ network just be something like that, where the IQ is the basis for, it's a token we use specifically for a knowledge-based economy initially was our thought. And then we switched that to, let's just, rebuild a whole series of internet dApps on the IQ network. Yeah. So you have a single token.
That makes so much more sense.
Right, because you don't want to...
No one wants to use like one thing for that app, one thing for another app. No, they just people just want something as easy as possible when it comes down to it.
Yeah, and currently, you can't use EOS on the Ethereum chain. You can't use, Bitcoin on EOS or something like that. But the IQ, because we're not the native token for any of these chains, we have the flexibility to move between different chains. So the IQ token can exist on Ethereum, it can exist on EOS, it can exist on Tron, and we have like blueprints of sorts ready. We know exactly what we need to do.
What are you trying to say? Are we going to be on? Is Everipedia going to be on Ethereum or Tron in the future?
Absolutely. At some point it will be.
Whoa.
We definitely intend that for happen. We have IBC. We have the specs for IBC kind of written down.
Okay.
It's just a matter of we don't have the time to get to it right now. So our plan right now, our roadmap is build Everipedia. That should launch in the next month, a new version of Everipedia that I genuinely believe is a better version of Wikipedia. It's not just a blockchain encyclopedia anymore. It's not like, okay, this is an encyclopedia on the blockchain. That's not what users want. I think we've established that at this point.
Yeah, people don't care if it's blockchain or not at this point.
Exactly. It's just a technology in the background that offers you the ability to possibly offer a superior experience.
Yeah.
But people don't want to know that they're using it. So we've built what we think is a truly better encyclopedia that utilizes a bunch of features of the blockchain in the background to enable a lot of those features. So that's coming out in a month. Hopefully in the next 2 months, we're going to be out. We've already started work on Predict. We're about halfway through the development for it. A prediction market that's actually simple and easy to use. Augur, because it's on Ethereum, is a little bit clunky.
Yeah.
And there's no good front end for Augur right now. Gas fees are kind of annoying. And I would say Augur almost went the route of decentralizing too much, in my opinion. The rep token, I think they had issues with the first major market they had where they tried to resolve it and it went straight into dispute resolution. A lot of those problems I think we have good solutions for in Predict. We have higher throughput. We have much simpler order matching. We worked on taking Augur and taking all the elements out that created a bad user experience. And maybe it's not quite as mathematically sound as Augur what we built, but we've built what I would say is what EOS
much
is
more usable,
right? A much more usable version of a prediction market. That's
the consumer prediction market.
Yeah, that still doesn't run afoul of any legal restrictions or things like that. So there's no money being made by Everipedia during it that would require us to register as
a tightrope because you're balancing. It has to be secure, and then you have to deal with once it's secure, you have to build it, and then you have to deal with the legal ramifications. You're balancing all these different things. There's these different variables that come in creating something like a prediction market. Mm-hmm. And so, how did you deal with it?
It was just we talked it through and we tried to figure out it. Thankfully, there were answers to all these questions. It wasn't like sometimes you get a problem and you're like, shit, there's no good answer to this. We didn't hit a single one of those. Every single one of the prediction market issues we ran into were like, these are all solvable issues, and we found solutions to them actually fairly quickly. Okay. So we started this, initiative about a month ago, and we're already halfway into development.
Yeah.
We finished the design phase in 2 weeks.
Okay.
It was in our heads for about a couple months before that. But the design phase, actually hard going through it, we finished that up in 2 weeks. And we
Nice.
decided we
That's
don't need
pretty
a
quick.
white paper or anything for this. We're just going to build the app.
Yeah.
Like white papers for raising money, right? It's
Yeah.
not for actual. It's not useful in any way to non-investors. Users just want to come in and use the site. So
I feel like a white paper is just kind of a marketing thing at this point. Like the Bitcoin white paper was a real white paper.
That was a truly original innovation. There's
Ethereum white paper was an original white paper. Most of the white papers I've read are just kind of like a loose blueprint of what they're gonna do,
Right.
and most of them are kind of just marketing things. It's just like
there's nothing in. I wouldn't say there's anything. There's no groundbreaking technology in Predict.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of we've focused on the user experience versus focusing on the decentralization or focusing on the cryptographic integrity of everything. It's still it's still secure. You're not going to lose your money. You're going to be able to use it legally. It doesn't run into any issues. But we've solved a lot of the user experience issues as well.
Yeah.
So that's one, Predict. Next after that, we have to think we're looking into a few other items to be the next item that we want to put on the IQ network.
So there's Crypto Quora.
Crypto Core is one we're thinking of.
That's another one.
An Oracle service possibly that works as a backend for both. This would be more of like a technical thing where it acts as a backend for both Predict and Everipedia.
That would make more sense to be the next thing.
It would, but it doesn't. It's not user facing.
Okay.
So it's kind of one of those things where it's like we don't need it. Maybe it would end up being useful to other dApps as well. So it's something we can consider.
Oh, something later down the line when there are more dApps.
Right. Yeah. And once there's a bigger ecosystem, there might be more of a demand for this.
When there's more cross-blockchain communication, it seems much more useful.
Yeah. Much more users using blockchain, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you looked into Tron at all?
I've heard a lot of good things, and I haven't looked into it. No.
Yeah, because I know CZ must really like Tron because he hosted the whole token sale, and then it immediately gets listed on Binance. How convenient.
Yeah. I don't know if the Bit token itself is particularly useful.
Yeah.
I think it was funny. I think BitTorrent initially, when they came out, had a token system in there, and BitTorrent didn't take off until they removed the token from their system.
Another. Oh, go figure. Nice.
Yeah.
How long has it been? Feels like a half hour, but it's definitely been longer.
Oh, it's been much longer.
Yeah, definitely. Kedar, we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you. This is a lot of fun.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
This is good.
IQ Talk. Let's go.
Cool.